This is JC from Real and Simulated Wars. We are here in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, and my idea today is to fly over Belgium just to see a couple of places from the Battle of the Bulge. I think that, you know, the technology that is rendering the terrain in Microsoft Flight Simulator is really something to take a look at, and I think it offers a lot of potential applications. And what I'm trying to figure out it is if I can visit battlefields, kind of viewing it as a you know, not specifically a tour, because to be honest, I wanted to figure it out if, you know, a staff ride was even possible, and I will talk about the staff rides in a second. But I'm just taking off from Bulge in Belgium, and what I'm trying to do today is to watch a couple of places from the Battle of the Bulge. As you know, the Battle of the Bulge happened in December of 1944. It was considered to be like Hitler's last gamble, and it ended up with a defeat that was, you know, quickly became a favorite battle to analyze and to write about. There is no doubt that this is one favorite, you know, type of battle to war game and to, you know, read about. So let me engage the autopilot here. I just created a flight plan where we're going to be visiting certain places that I will come into in a few seconds. So let's place the flight director. Let's hold the altitude at this, and we're going to be navigating. So let's keep this altitude of 3,000 feet. It offers, you know, some nice altitude to watch around. So as you know, the Battle of the Bulge happened in the Ardennes, and well, the usual thing that they say is that the Ardennes or the Ardennes is not a tank country place, and you will see it. It's really not. Very convoluted. There is very few opportunities to march an armored column properly. So what I'm going to do today is to follow a bit of the last steps of Kampfgruppe Peiper. This Kampfgruppe is very, very famous, and its exploits are really, you know, very popular in military history. And to be honest, you know, this is not exactly the most decisive action of the Battle of the Bulge. Actually, most of it, I mean, the decisive place for the Battle of the Bulge was a Hazelhold Ridge, not even Saint-Vith, not even Bastogne. But, you know, history has its preferences. So right now what I'm going to do, this Kampfgruppe Peiper was part of SS Panzer Division 1, and we're going to start our tour by overflying Malmedy, which is, if you see it down there, it is this custom waypoint. I created a GPS based flight plan, and we're going to be overflying through the Malmedy massacre memorial. It was a, you know, very unfortunate event, and where, you know, Kampfgruppe Peiper found a battery. It was actually you know, a patrol that he sent forward to the north, and he found this battery of American artillery, and for whatever reason, they captured everything and they proceeded to kill everybody. It's really very, very, very sad event. And we're going to be overflying that memorial, which is down there. I hope that you can see my cursor. And well, actually the main body of Kampfgruppe Peiper was a bit south of this position. From this position, it was actually located in near Ligneville, which is a town that is located right there, right at the bottom. You can see, how much their forward patrol reached out, and well, it ended up in a massacre, and it was I believe the memorial, it is right there in that corner over there. Malmedy itself, the town, is located a bit to the right. So that being said, that we have visited this place now, what Kampfgruppe Peiper did, they just moved it towards the north. And I don't know if exactly from this position, I believe it was done a bit more to the south, which is in this region right there, and they proceeded to move into this route that was to take them into a crossing to the Meuse that we will see later in our flight. So the first station was the town of Stavelot, which we will be flying over in a couple of minutes. You can see a couple of rivers there. I do believe that the river that passes through it is the Amblève. Don't quote me on that, but this battle for Stavelot was kind of complicated because, as you can see, the terrain is very hilly, and it offered a lot of opportunities for the American forces to provide for the defense. Eventually they were overwhelmed, but still the German forces were liable for counterattacks coming from this region. You can see there is a valley here, and that's the valley of the Amblève. So right there on top of below that hill, that ridge over there, it is the town of Spa, which was one of the centers where the Allies had some reserves in place. So Kampfgruppe Peiper took this route, and they proceeded to go through Stavelot. There is a couple of bridges here where some intense anti-tank action happened. And it is really very interesting to read. There is a particular book that follows these actions, but there is also this book from the official history of the U.S. Army that can tell you more about that. But as you can see, as Kampfgruppe Peiper enters this region, the terrain becomes more constrained. You have a urban terrain. You have these hills that I hope that you can perceive even at this altitude. And this is the main bridge that was in place in 1944. They eventually overcame the defenses of the American trucks that were located here. They did a valiant stance over there. The Americans that were there, but eventually, Kampfgruppe Peiper could overcome those and move it towards the next stop, which was Trois Point. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. It is a very small town that is located over there. Another couple of interesting actions happened there just with AT guns. And there is one particular instance of one AT gun that took one of the Tigers, or one of the heavy tanks of the Germans, and had them stop at a good half an hour over there. I believe it was in this region. There was like a small passage for like a train bridge, and but eventually, you know, Kampfgruppe Peiper, they decided that this route was not viable, this route going through the left, and they decided to use the route to the north, and they ended up in this town that you can see over there, which is La Glace, all the glaze, and that's pretty much the end. They ran out of fuel. American reservists started to pour in, and you know, they were caught actually. They were viewed and observed from reconnaissance aircraft coming from Spa, which is located somewhere around there. So this is pretty much the limit of advance, and as you can see, you know, the terrain here is miserable, coming through these very narrow places, a lot of hills, a lot of trouble, and well, very constricted. There is not too much freedom of maneuver. One can argue that here the situation was a bit better, but it was actually not. So very unfortunate for Kampfgruppe Peiper. They had to abandon all their equipment around this region and start walking back because they ran out of fuel, and that was really pretty much it. What I'm doing right now, what I'm flying to, it is towards the next stop that they were supposed to be hitting, which is the town of Vermont, which it is, you know, a bit far away from here right now. And then they proceeded to the town of they were supposed to go to this town of Seni, and then finally cruise the Meuse at Huy. And as you can see, the terrain is slowly changing from these steep hills to more gentle terrain, a bit more open, although I don't know how was the vegetation back then, but you can see the theme. The general theme is that the terrain was supposed to open as soon as they passed these very narrow passages, and they could, you know, eventually make it through the Meuse and achieve their objective. Kampfgruppe Peiper was instructed not to look for their flanks, just keep pushing, but it's impossible to push when you're out of fuel, and when the Americans kept putting a lot of resistance onto them. So I'm gonna make a small break here, and we're going to reconvene in the next stop, which is the town of Vermont, which is not far from here actually. You see our plane is turning now, and well, I prefer the external views because we do have you know, a better perspective. I'm using the X-Cub, which is a very basic aircraft. Let me take a look at the fuel. Our left tank is at 10. This one a bit more, around 12.5. But you know, with this Garmin system right here, it is not bad at all. I like it because allegedly it can land everywhere, has a very sturdy landing gear, so you can land it wherever you want as far as there is no trees or anything like that. So it's a very cool aircraft, and it's slow, of course. We're at 96 knots, and well, speed is not a thing right here. and just observing the terrain, and I'm liking this. The first battlefield that I visited using Microsoft Flight Simulator was the town of Gela in Sicily, Italy. It was quite fun. It showed me a lot, and maybe I can record that experience too. There is less, you know, airdromes and airports in Sicily, of course. They're pretty much very basic and hard to find from the air, but nonetheless, it showed a lot of the reasons why the Italian counterattacks were done. When it comes to here, I am seeing that, you know, the terrain becomes more gentle as soon as you pass and you're heading towards Vermont, which I still cannot see it, and I hope that we can see it a bit later. But you can see the terrain is far more open, and there is basically a decent chance for tanks to do their thing. You know, tank formations do need to spread. Even you know, an approach march has to be done over several axes. You cannot send them in a column. That's miserable. When you're expecting contact, that's a recipe for disaster, and we have seen exactly that. Like, you know, that route between Stavelot and Trois Point is just awful. It's just one road with a lot of trees around. It's a freaking nightmare. And besides that, you have the slopes. The fuel consumption goes through the roof, and well, you know, it was winter when this happened, and you have to fight the mud and then the snow. What a time to fight a battle. So we're going to be taking a small pause here, and I will reconvene with you when we're near Vermont. Well, welcome back, and I have bad news. I just passed Vermont and I forgot to record it. What a moron. In any case, we're going to be crossing the Meuse in a few minutes, and we're near the town of Huy, and look at the terrain, pretty flat. This is really armored terrain. This is a perfect place to fight with armor. Gone are, you know, the steep slopes and heavy forests, and now we have the Meuse right there in the background, and we're going to cross it at what was supposed to be the final destination of Kampfgruppe, Peiper, the town of Huy. Those big buildings down there, and very far in the background you can see the, what is that, the Liege airport. Again, we haven't abandoned Belgium yet. So as you can see, the Meuse, it's kind of a very important barrier for mobility, and that was one of the concerns, and that's why the rush to get it on time and seize it. So all this big town down there is Hui. The autopilot is kind of ignoring the itinerary. Have to give it a chance to catch up. I hope it will. Anyway, look at this. This is just beautiful. From here and all the way above, down there is the north, and someplace there should be Antwerp. So it's not a small thing what the Germans wanted to do with this Kampfgruppe. They wanted to seize a crossing here, and as you can see how far away and how short it fell from its objective. So that's basically what I wanted to show you. I am going to be landing at the Liege International Airport. And I don't know why. My autopilot is not catching up on that waypoint. But anyway, I'm gonna be taking over, and this is pretty much what I wanted to show. So if you want to stay and show you how I have fun with the X-Cub, you are very welcome to stay. So this is still the autopilot. You can see it in the indicators on top. We're using the GPS system, autopilot, and we're holding altitude at 3,100 feet. So now this thing should take me directly into the Liege airport back there, but we're going to disconnect the autopilot because it's gonna take it a while to catch up, and you know, I just want to get there faster, so not to bore you. Take out navigation. We're not even gonna keep the pitch. I wanna trim it for higher airspeed. So the X-Cub is an aircraft that I like a lot, and the reason that I like it a lot, it is, one, it's very forgiving. Two, it has a decent autopilot. Microsoft Flight Simulator had a lot of problems with their autopilot system. It is pretty much very well known. I have a video with the Airbus 320 where I could make a decent job out of it, but you know, some things are not working exactly. I have checked the autopilot system. I believe that this one is the XP30 or something like that. I have checked it, and you know, some things do not match the actual system. But nonetheless, the third reason why I like this aircraft is because you can land it anywhere you want, and that's excellent. As for Flight Simulator, I'm really liking its terrain generation. It's just, you know, very nice visuals. I don't know if I like the technical or the avionics part of the aircraft, but everything is a compromise. When it comes to these staff rides or battlefield tours, I guess we're closer to the battlefield tour than the staff ride. I think that the Microsoft Flight Simulator has a lot of potential in that sense, and heck, I'm gonna be using it for a lot of different things. As I mentioned, I already tried the Battlefield Gala in Sicily. It was very, very fun. Right here, I do believe it was fantastic, and well, we'll have to make it more like a staff ride. A staff ride, it is something that the US Army has still. It was, the original idea was in the Prussian Army. Oh, let me trim the speed out. How far are we? 3 miles. Let me trim this guy. Nose up to reduce the airspeed. It was an idea of von Moltke, the elder, just to teach their troops in situ, you know, where they were going to fight their battles. They pretty much knew the avenues of approach, and they had very, you know, established and traditional enemies, so they could do that. They could just, you know, take their horses and inspect the battlefield and decide how these things were going to be fought. Flaps down. 500. And oh, we're too high, man. What about their speed? Oh, we're still at 60. Reduce that. I like to land around 50. And well, you know, these staff rides were very helpful. The Germans had a very high concept of what the staff was supposed to do, and they valued it so much. And later times, as the US Army catches on it, and of course it's made by a team. You have the students, and then you have the instructor, who has to be a specialist in the battle that is being reviewed or inspected, and not the case here, of course. And you could take, you know, people like battlefield guides or whoever you had available who was an expert in that place. Of the objective is to see the things, because, you know, you play these things in war games, so you read about it, and yeah, well, the valley of this, the valley of that, until you get there, like, you don't see it. And some war games are so constrained, like, you know, Combat Mission or something like that, where, you know, you don't get to see the real proportions of the battlefield. So that's the purpose of this. I hope I have entertained you. I hope you enjoyed the flight. We just landed at Leech International Airport, and I will be moving into general aviation, which I don't know where it is. I'm gonna ask for taxi instructions before I get hit by a big jet. So that's it. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the skies sometime soon. Thank you.